I think it's very important for the protesters in these various cities. Some of these cities that Trump has targeted have not had protesters, but let's stick with Portland right now. I think Albuquerque is on his hit list. I don't know. It's a bunch of cities on this rat bastard's hit list. But anyway, one of the key features of nonviolence, as you know, is to resist, but to resist passively, to not fight back. And this is where I have the problem. I can remember the movie Gandhi that was, a biopic of Mohandas Gandhi. And in one of the scenes where workers refused to go to work at the salt factory, I believe, and the British police, and they were Indian people, but they were trained and worked under the British police, approached the mob outside the factory and started beating them with clubs. And as a group of protesters fell to the ground bloodied, another group would step forward and the police would attack them, or the military police. And I remember watching that scene in the movie, and it just, it absolutely destroyed me. When I saw that, I just thought, how can they do that? How, not they being the protesters, how can they just fall bloodied and beaten one after another? What is the point of that? Why don't they attack those goddamn police and kill them? Why don't they strangle them? Why don't they rip their heads off? Which was not very Gandhian, was it? Well, I've come to understand, at least intellectually, what the nonviolence movement is all about. And part of it is to shame the people who are clubbing you and beating you and gassing you, shame them into submission, to point to what they're doing, their acts of violence, rather than have them reacting to something you might be doing that could be interpreted as violent. And this is where I want to say, I know they're not listening, but to the protesters in Portland, who are in their 54th night now, there's got to be a way for you to do this, and there is a way for you to do this, without provoking these monsters that are the brown shirts, the SS, the Trump Gestapo. There is a way to maintain a protesting presence. I frankly think that every citizen in Portland, since we're talking about Portland, if it comes to Atlanta, then here. But my personal feeling now, and I've talked around this over the years, is for every citizen of Portland to stop what he or she is doing tomorrow morning and just step into the streets, downtown, in front of your house, in the suburbs, around the university, wherever it is, and just sit down and don't move and bring the whole goddamn city to an absolute halt. Not that there's a big argument with the city administration. I don't know what their inner-city politics are like, intra-city politics are like. But to make the point and to make it totally nonviolently, that's one thing, one way to do it. You had the hundreds of thousands of people who make up the population of Portland just stop. Stop what they're doing. Stop everything. I think that would be a profound statement of nonviolence. Now, I understand that's not going to happen. A. B, or perhaps this is A, it's not my place to even suggest it. I don't live in Portland. I don't know the situation. If this were to come, this police violence of Trump's, which I fully expect it will come to Atlanta, if and when it does, then I will be right in the forefront of people who will even though it's going to take all my willpower, who will sit down in the middle of Peachtree Street or wherever and not goddamn move. One of the regular supporters and listeners to this program, Jude, whose website, womenstanding.com, she has been a peace activist for years on the West Coast. She's traveled to these areas where Border Patrol and ICE and other policing agencies have been beating and imprisoning people and locking people up. And she's made her presence known passively, quietly, and nonviolently. And I respect her for that. I respect anybody who can do that. And I'm kind of envious of it because I don't have that yet. I don't know that I ever will. But I do know this intellectually: violence is counterproductive, especially when you're going up against a fascist state like the one run by the Orange Ape in Washington, D.C. And it is a fascist state now in which we live. It just doesn't have all of the identifying factors of fascism. It has the identifying characteristics, but not all of them have been implemented. They are coming. They are coming. I hope that I can make some sort of a decision about violence versus nonviolence by the time this erupts into more cities and more cities, because it will. Trump, this Orange Ape, will stop at nothing. And the tactic that he has elected to use now is, I am here to save you because of all the violence that he and his filthy tactics and his son of a bitching gangsters around him are perpetrating against the American people. That's where the violence is coming from. Nobody has put their knee on a cop's neck and held him there for 8 minutes and executed him. Nobody has taken an ICE agent or a TSA agent or a Homeland Security agent and shot them in the back while they were running away. No fucking body has done that. That has been done by these policing agencies. So when this Orange Ape talks about violence, well, you can hear what happens to me. I, once again, start to slide into that red zone where I wish that I could incorporate and internalize C.T. Vivian and Dr. King and Jesus of Nazareth and Gandhi and John Lewis and on and on and on. Sorry for the deep sigh. I was listening to the program the other night because I record this early. This is Thursday afternoon prior to its being broadcast. And I was listening to it and I thought, Malloy, you got to stop with the damn sighs. And I also realized I have to move the microphone a little closer, which I've done. It's hard to do all this stuff when your brain is just a seething mass of rage about the Orange Ape and watching the death, and I hope it's temporary, the death of the ideals that the framers wrote down so eloquently all those years ago. They didn't live them, but they wrote them down. Hi, Truth Seekers. Mike Malloy here. As you know, we've switched formats and are now broadcast exclusively on the Progressive Voices Network. So that means you get fewer program interruptions, no corporate commercials, and lots of profanity. But our format change also means some of our radio listeners no longer hear the program. It's been a while since I mentioned our podcasts, so you may have forgotten that there is a way to listen to this program anytime you need a good dose of screaming. Visit MikeMalloy.com and subscribe to our podcast. You have your choice. You can listen to the ranting with the audio podcast or listen and watch me lose control with a video podcast subscription. As a podcast subscriber, you can download the program to your mobile device and take me with you wherever you go. And if you have a friend who needs a dose of truth-seeking, you can give a gift subscription as well. That's MikeMalloy.com, and never miss a minute of the uncensored fun and frivolity.